Myths can be found in every country, era, and stage of civilization, but no one has ever come close to the storytelling expertise of the Greeks. Greek myths are unrivaled as sources of unbound imagination and edge-of-your-seat folklore. Perhaps one of the most famous and most often referred to Greek myths focuses on the story of the Minotaur. Or is that the Minotaur? I think it's the Minotaur. A fearsome creature with the body of a human and the head of a bull. According to legend, the Minotaur was the result of a cursed union between a human queen and a bull sent by the gods. The ruler of the Mediterranean island of Crete, King Minos, imprisoned the Minotaur in a vast maze known as the Labyrinth. Minos forced the people of the Greek city-state Athens to provide human sacrifices to the beast every 9 years. The tribute continued until Greek hero Theseus solved the labyrinth and killed the Minotaur. You remember the story. He used that ball of twine or whatever it was to not get lost in the labyrinth, and then I don't think it would have been that colour though. However, up to this day, excavations at the site of the ancient palace of Knossos have not revealed anything whatsoever to support the theory that a labyrinth had ever been constructed there. And scientists have basically said there's just no way a labyrinth was there because, well, there's no sign of one. However, recent research at a quarry near the Cretan city of Gortyna has raised hopes that the famous labyrinth might soon be discovered. So there you go. Who said that the story of the Minotaur was just a load of old bull? Erik Bloodaxe, the Viking king with a name so subtle, you can guess he was someone who didn't really practice fair-handed diplomacy. Born around 885 AD, Erik was your average Norse overachiever, son of Harald Farhar, axe enthusiast, and part-time king of both Norway and Northumbria. Because apparently one kingdom just wasn't enough for him. His nickname Bloodaxe came from his enthusiasm for wanting to swing his axe into all those people he didn't like too much. Needless to say, you didn't want to get on the wrong side of this fella. Erik's approach to leadership was refreshingly direct. Rule first, ask questions never. He was known for settling disputes the old-fashioned way, by making sure the other guy couldn't hold a sword anymore, presumably by using his favoured axe amputation method. After being booted out of Norway, family drama, long story, let's not go there, he popped over to England and briefly ruled over Northumbria. But in classic Viking soap opera style, his reign ended with betrayal. A surprise axe to the back, perchance? There you go, a dramatic death in 954. Erik Bloodaxe, a king, a thief, and an axe murderer. In other words, a proper Viking. Now, not all punishments in history involved complicated pieces of apparatus. But of course, there was always a creative genius behind any good idea. And this one was elegant in its simplicity, but no less brutal. Rats. The aim was to force a hungry and desperate rat to eat its way through a victim's body. Yeah, this is another classic example of how the human race can be ingenious for all the wrong reasons. The unfortunate recipient would be laid down and restrained before the torturer trapped a rat on their stomach, probably under something like a bucket or a clay pot or something like that. The bucket container, whatever it was, would then be heated up, possibly with hot coals sprinkled on the top. And the rat, now panicking, would desperately seek a way out. And normally, this way out would be down through the victim's stomach. This led to a drawn-out and extremely painful death, as the victim's insides were eaten away. So what's the takeaway with this? Well, I suppose at least the rat got to survive. Sennacherib was a powerful king of Assyria who ruled from 705 to 681 BC. He's best known for his military campaigns, especially his brutal siege of Jerusalem in 701 BC, which is famously described in both Assyrian records and the Bible. And actually in the Old Testament, he's considered just a bit of a git. He claimed victory over Jerusalem, even though he didn't actually conquer and get inside the city walls, which is something that modern-day historians are still debating. So what was the reason why Sennacherib couldn't get into Jerusalem? Well, the Bible suggests that a miracle saved Jerusalem, no less. Yes. Apparently, an angel came down from the heavens and killed all 185,000 of Sennacherib's soldiers. Sort of a holy hitman? However, legendary ancient Greek historian Herodotus had a slightly different take on the matter, believing that the soldiers had been overrun with mice during a campaign in Egypt and had caught some sort of disease. And this theory was picked up again in the 20th century by biblical scholar John Bright, who also suggested that an epidemic, perhaps something like the bubonic plague, had run through Sennacherib's army. Sennacherib's reign was marked by ambition, innovation, and of course, a fair amount of cruelty. And ultimately, it wasn't going to end well for him. His eldest son, Ardamilisu, held the position of heir apparent until 684 BC, when Sennacherib suddenly replaced him with his younger brother, Esarhaddon. And yeah, that didn't go down too well with Ardamilisu, especially when inscriptions from the time claim it was all because Daddy was a little bit disappointed in him. And so, as if straight off the pages of a Hollywood movie script, Ardamilisu assassinated his father in one of the sacred temples of Nineveh. Sennacherib. Although he was never going to win a Dad of the Year award, he's nonetheless one of the most fascinating and controversial figures of the ancient Near East. Domitian, Roman Emperor for 15 long years. Oh, by the way, that is quite a long time for a Roman emperor to be in power. Ruled with an iron fist, and a paranoia that made him one of the most feared men in Roman history. He started strong, repairing the economy, reforming the military, and bringing order to the empire. But of course, as is the case with most Roman emperors, it doesn't take too long for the darker side of their characters to come to the fore. Domitian believed in absolute power. He was not afraid to get his hands dirty either. He liked to see prisoners in private, hold their chains in his hands, and shove a flaming torch under their private parts before personally castrating them. He was a bit of a show-off at public events as well, and liked to force slaves to stand a fair way away from him, with their fingers spread out on a wooden board. Always game for a laugh, he would then shoot arrows between the terrified slaves' fingers. Of course, not really being much of a sharpshooter, this often resulted in some ham-fisted outcomes. Senators lived in constant fear as he purged the elite class with brutal efficiency, and his spies were everywhere. Accusations of treason, real or fabricated, led to bloody trials and public humiliations. Even his own family didn't feel safe. By the end of his reign, Rome was drowning in fear, and his assassination in the year 96 was met with a huge collective sigh of relief.